Hey guys, it's me again. I'm Shelley. When you're looking at the relationship between church and state, the current focus seems to be on the 20th century interpretation of Jefferson's wall of separation and what that means for the 21st century. The role of religion in America is not really a modern debate, but its origins are getting some attention from historians and scholars, especially in the fields of theology, law, and philosophy, which is very exciting. Among the selections on the Oxford ebook collection, there are a few works that deal with religious dissenters on the disestablishment of religion, but two really were primary for my line of research. The first is John Ragosta's Wellspring of Liberty, How Virginia's Religious Dissenters Helped Win the American Revolution and Secured Religious Liberty. He notices that Virginia is really the epicenter for religious discrimination in the years prior to the American Revolution. But within 30 years, they were the fiercest protectors of religious freedom. Why? He says it's religious dissenters. He said they made up 1/3 of the population prior to the American Revolution, and they used their influence to make change. First, they refused to take up arms in the American Revolution until they were granted some degree of religious protection. This leaves the leaders in the establishment little choice but to give in. After the war, when Patrick Henry advocated the General Assessment Plan to help rebuild the establishment, they capitalized on their political experience and worked with Madison to pass Jefferson's statute. He uses letters, petitions, official government documents, and he ties Virginia evangelicals to the legislative assurance of church and state separation. The second is Nicolas Miller's The Religious Roots of the First Amendment, Dissenting Protestants in the Separation of Church and State. His is really more theological in nature. He connects the ideas of the Reformation, specifically the doctrine of the priesthood of all believers, to political principles that separate church and state. He tends to find an unbroken chain of thought that begins with Martin Luther and ends, for him at least, with James Madison. He connects 8 different figures, and they're not always direct links, but he can use people that they knew or that influenced them to tie them together. He says that religious ideas were the key contributing factor. It wasn't just the practical, it was the ideas that allowed the First Amendment to come into being. Miller's work seems to contradict the later article written by Mark David Hall, Madison's Memorial and Remonstrance, Jefferson's Statute for Religious Liberty, and the Creation of the First Amendment. It seems that Hall and Miller are looking at 2 different places for the connection. They're looking for, on one hand, Hall is looking for documentary evidence, letters, journals, something that says that I read this and it influenced this. Miller's argument, though, points to a really deeper link. It was the idea that permeated Protestant religion that, even before it was articulated, brought about these groundbreaking documents. Dissent was the hallmark of the Revolution because of this one foundational theological doctrine. There are threads that can tie religious dissent to religious freedom. It's just going to take some work to really knit them together in a really tangible way.